Okay, for those of you that registered for the workshop Teaching English for Science and Technology by Daniel Jimenez, that workshop will be held in room 204 on the second floor. And that workshop is going to be taking place from 11:15 to 12:45. So even though you don't have registered in your program, that's the room that it will be held. Room 204, 11:15 to 12:45. You can come.
Thank you.
Teaching English for Science and Technology by Daniel Jimenez. Okay? If you have any questions, you can ask me. I have it right here. Okay? That's going to be taking place right after the coffee break, and you may attend that workshop with a ticket or not. Okay? Thank you.
Do you need help?
Yeah, I need some help because my presentation is not clear. This is not working.
Okay.
Like the drive is not working and I have it on my drive. Okay. But now it's taking too much time to.
Come on.
No, not too much. It's not. I think it's It's the one that you already did.
No.
It's the one I could, but I save it on my drive just in case. But I cannot open it.
Let me check. I have the number.
I don't show if this is not working.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to the following workshop. Lesson Planning from Students' Perspective, given by Amalia Alvarez Rivera. Okay? Amalia Alvarez has attended several workshops and trainings in ESL and EFL, mixed TESOL and TESOL conventions, leadership and reflective teaching. She is also a certified facilitator of the Student Leadership Challenge TM by Josie Bass, and has been certified as a TESOL teacher by the School of International Training. So please welcome Amalia Alvarez Rivera.
Thank you, good morning all, thank you for being here on a Sunday morning. But I think it's a good thing to refresh things that we already know, and maybe you take something from here home. So this workshop has two purposes, just to reflect on our teaching and the way our teaching affects our students. I have some questions, and the way our planning also affects our students. Bless you. I have questions for you to reflect about. Don't answer them to me. It's just for you to think about. We usually say, my student doesn't learn. My student doesn't speak. My student cannot do this. My student cannot do, cannot learn the words, or cannot learn the vocabulary, or cannot put into practice. But have you ever thought how much learning does your teaching bring to the class? Sometimes we can prepare an excellent class. We can bring to the class excellent things, excellent activities. But most of the times we think in first person. We don't think in third person. The things that I am doing in the classroom, what is happening to them? Are they working really in the way I thought? So this is what I want you to think about today. And all of you have, do all of you have a color stick? Yes? No? Okay, so here you have one, and maybe anybody else that's missing, who's missing? There you go. Okay, so you have color sticks. Well, this. Okay. I have an agenda. The first thing that we are going to do, is to get to know each other. The second thing that we are going to do is to just a brief reflection on lesson planning. I'm pretty sure that you all know how to plan a class, but it's just reflecting on it. And then, after that, we are going to talk about a CRIF.
Amalia, the board is slow.
This is low.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
So it's, okay, it's not here. Then I'm going to introduce you a CRIF. A CRIF is a way to see planning from our students' performance, our students' way of learning. And from this framework in planning, we can realize why, we can find answers to all the questions that we ask after class. What went well, what went wrong, why they didn't understand the topic or what we were working with in the classroom. So before we do this, you're going to introduce yourselves, you're going to stand up and you're going to mingle. You're going to find someone and introduce yourselves. After that, after you finish the sentences, sorry for the mistake, after you finish the sentences, finish the sentence that you have for your color, okay, that fits your color. You have purple, you have orange, you have yellow. After you finish the sentences, you are going to exchange the stick and you're going to look for another person. So those of you who have pink, and in this case it's purple, it's something that I changed, it's not the final presentation, but purple, those of you who have purple, you're going to talk about that. One thing I love about teaching is, and you complete the sentence. Those of you who have yellow, one thing that is challenging about teaching students to speak English is, and those of you who have orange, you're going to complete this sentence. One thing that is challenging for students to speak and develop fluency is, okay, so I'm going to give you 2-3 minutes to stand up and do this with your partners. Time, I would like to know all your opinions and exchange, but you have exchanged opinions among yourselves. But I have some other things for you to think about. Okay, one of the things that I have seen is that scripted activities in our textbooks is one of the reasons why our students cannot speak. An example of a scripted activity in textbook is this. Get into pairs. Don't do it. We are not going to do it. But it's an example, and it's in textbooks. Just check your textbooks. For example, they say, get into pairs and make sentences in present perfect, using yet, using already, using ever. And the students get into pairs making sentences. We don't speak in sentences. I mean, we speak with incomplete sentences, we clarify, we hesitate, we ask. So that is very scripted. So it doesn't give them the chance to think a little bit more, think beyond that sentence. Yes, they are like those little parrots repeating things. So that doesn't help. So what can we do? I'm not saying they are wrong. They are not wrong. They are part of it. But if we just focus on what our textbook says, then we are just limiting their learning of English. Another thing that happens here is their learning styles. I would like you to think about your classes, each one of you. But mostly the learning style that prevails in a classroom is auditory. Because the teacher speaks, the students speak. As teacher-student, the teacher is always talking. The moment that our students are working together, they are doing this kind of interaction, but it's talking, speaking. So it's auditory. What happens with my students who need to move, who need to stand up, to move? What happens with my students who are visual? 80% of your students are visual. 80% of the people is visual. We are visual. What happens with our students who need to manipulate things, the tactile ones? So it doesn't happen in our classrooms. Very often that doesn't happen. Scaffolding of activities. We have our students in a roller coaster. We take them in a ride in a roller coaster because sometimes we give them easy things to do, and suddenly we take them to something very difficult, and then we take them again to something easy. So imagine that learning process they are going through. Yes? So or the other way around. Sometimes we give them something difficult to start with, and then you bring them to an easy thing. So we have them in a roller coaster in their process of learning, and that doesn't help. And of course, the lack of fun. Fun is fundamental in speaking activities. Why is it fun fundamental in speaking activities? Because when we have fun, our behavior changes. Our behavior changes. We are relaxed. We are not thinking, students are not thinking that they are the focus of the teacher. They don't think about that. So they feel at ease and they start producing without translation. Without translation. That's one of the things that we always blame them or label them, is because they translate. Yes, but how can we stop that? We are the ones that we have to stop that, but not telling them don't translate. That's going to happen. That is going to happen. That process of translation is going to happen. But if we create activities where we don't give them the chance to think in Spanish, if we give them the opportunity to have fun in the classes, they are not going to think in Spanish. There is going to be a lot of critical thinking and relaxation. Your students are going to be relaxed. All those fears that Elsa mentioned at the beginning are going to be lowered. They're going to feel confident even to make mistakes. Even to make mistakes, yes? So what can we do? What can we do about this? The key is in the lesson plan. It's in our lesson planning. Can you tell me what are the main stages of our lesson plan? What are the main stages? Can you tell me one of the stages?
Warm up.
Okay, so we have the warm-up. We have the warm-up. What happens during the warm-up? What happens during the warm-up?
Something dynamic to break the ice.
Something dynamic to break the ice. What else is in the warm-up?
Engage the students.
Engage the students. How?
Like, for example, with a simple, fun activity that it's going to present them or it's going to give them an idea of what the class is going to be about.
Okay, so that's our warm-up. And after our warm-up, what is the next step?
Presentation.
The presentation. But I have something before. I have something before the presentation. Before the presentation, okay, so we have our warm-up, our review. The warm-up, well, sometimes we check homework, but we also make connections to what they have learned in the previous lessons. That's the most important thing, to make a connection with something they already know. It's good to break the ice, but it's more important to connect them to something they can handle before presenting new information.